Shalom. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ha, Rocha Kodash, Ma'amath. Double honors to the elder apostles of GMS and their elders. Double honors to my elder apostle, Ahdawam Banyasharala of the Lions Den Camp here in Jacksonville, Florida. Shalom to the sincere Akim, pushing his truth and sincerity around the four corners of this earth. I'm Nakar Harab Ban Yasharala, coming out of the Lions Den Camp of Yasharala here in Jacksonville, Florida. And today, I'll be coming out with a lesson, and it's on this article. I saw this article yesterday, and I read through it, but as it says here, it says exclusive. South Korea's President Lee says U.S. investments demands would spark financial crisis. I mean, it's going to cause problems, especially for Korea, South Korea in particular, and also Babylon, America as well. Because this is this devil trying to mix in. And the title of this lesson is No More Mixing In for Ahdawam. Meaning there ain't going to be no more deals. Ain't going to be no more agreements and treaties and all of this stuff. They're not going to be able to mix in anymore. And we're seeing it happen before our very eyes as we speak. We see it happen right before our eyes. So without further ado, let's get right into it. What the? Hold on, man. They want to act stupid. Continuing, you know how this devil's technology is. It says South Korea's economy could fall into crisis, rivaling its 1997 meltdown of the government if the government accepts current U.S. demands. Installed trade talks without safeguards, President Lee Jae-myung told Reuters. So basically, whatever this devil is doing, that's Psalms chapter 10. This devil's ways are always grievous. Anybody that enters in a deal with this devil is grievous. It's destructive. But let's continue. It says Seoul and Washington verbally agreed to a trade deal in July, which the U.S. would lower President Donald Trump's tariffs on South Korean goods in exchange for $350 billion in investment from South Korea, among other measures. They have yet to put the agreement to paper because of disputes over how the investments would be handled, Lee said. It's detrimental to them. It says without a currency swap, if we were to withdraw $350 billion in the manner that the U.S. is demanding to invest this all in cash in the U.S., South Korea would face a situation it had in the 1997 financial crisis, he said through a translator. So basically, he was saying if we give in to the demands or we come to some kind of deal, it's going to mess us up. I'm going to just go ahead and go to it. I quoted it, but I'm going to go to it. Let's go to Psalms 10. This is Psalms chapter 10, verse 5. It says, his ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for his enemies, he puffeth at them. So the ways of this devil are always grievous. They're detrimental. And this is what the president of South Korea is saying. If they were to enter into a deal or put it in paper, it would cause a financial crisis like they had back in the middle, late 90s. But when it comes down to the judgments of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai, that is far above out of this devil's sight. He can't see the judgments of the Lord. And it says again, as for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. So this devil, he puffeth at enemies. He even puffeth at his own allies, bullying his allies. So let's continue. It says in an interview in his office on Friday, Lee also spoke about a huge U.S. immigration raid that detained hundreds of Koreans, as well as his ways are always grievous. And it says as well as Seoul's relations with North Korea, neighboring giant China and Russia. So you see, like Seoul Korea, South Korea, They're supposed to be allies, but what did this devil do? They raided a plant. And I think there was a Hyundai plant. I think this article says something, a little something about that, but let's continue. It says, but trade and defense talks with the U.S., South Korea's military ally and top economic partner, are overshadowing a trip Lee makes from Monday to New York, where he will address the United Nations General Assembly and will be the first South Korean president to chair a meeting of the Security Council. There it is right here. It says, praises Trump handling of Hyundai raid. You know, Hyundai is real big here in Babylon, America. Those are Korean-made cars. The Hyundai Genesis, the Santa Fe, and all them. That is all Korean. But let's continue. It says, Lee, a liberal, I guess they got to point that out, took office in June, a snap election after his conservative predecessor Yoon Suk Yeol was removed from office and jailed briefly for imposing a martial law. Yeah, I remember that, and he was trying to stay in power. But let's continue. It says Lee has sought to calm the country and its economy, Salaki, and he said he plans to use his U.S. visit to tell the world that democratic Korea is back. You know, you got to be careful with them words, but democratic. But let's continue. It says Lee met Trump for the first summit in August, saying he had built a strong personal tie with the U.S. leader, despite not agreeing on a joint statement or a concrete announcement. This month, Trump's administration rocked South Korea with the arrest of more than 300 South Korean workers at a Hyundai motor battery plant in Georgia, with federal officials accusing them of immigration violations. See, this devil, he puffeth at everybody. He even come at his own allies. It says Lee said South Koreans were naturally angered by the harsh treatment of the workers, of course. The Trump administration published images of them in shackles, and had warned it could make companies wary of investing in the United States. And that's really what's going on, man. These other countries, President Babylon trying to do all these things to make these businesses come back here. This place is not going to get healed. It's not. It's not going to be healed. It's not going to be healed. If this place was to be healed, it would have been healed by now. But let's continue. It says, but the raid would not undermine the bilateral alliance, praising Trump for offering to let the workers stay. See, he just did that just to do that. It says Lee said he did not believe it was directed by Trump. It was, but was the result of overzealous law enforcement. And it's got him saying he does not believe the U.S. has apologized for the incident. Of course not. And it says that we have agreed to seek reasonable measures in this regard, and we are working with them, he said. Well, let's continue. It says stumbling block in trade talks. It says Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, however you say that, has said South Korea should follow Japan's deal with the United States. He said Seoul either needs to accept the deal or pay the tariffs, using the Trump administration's depiction of foreign government as paying the levies, which are instead paid by U.S. importers. Lee asked if he would walk away from the deal. He said, I believe that between blood allies, we will be able to maintain the minimum amount of rationality. South Korea has proposed a foreign exchange swap line with the U.S. to reduce the shock of investments on local markets for the won currency. Lee did not address how likely the U.S. was to agree or whether that it would be enough for the deal to go forward. He has said South Korea is different from Japan, which struck a trade deal with the U.S. in July. Tokyo has more than double South Korea's 410 billion foreign exchange reserves and international currency in the yen, and a swap line with the United States, Lee said. So Japan is a little better off financially. They can make deals and do things rather than South Korea. It's gonna destroy South Korea if they do this. And this devil, his ways are always grievous. But it's also this devil trying to mix in and stay relevant. But let's continue. It says Seoul and Washington have said in writing that many investment projects must be commercially viable, but working out the details is proving difficult. He says, see, that's what's going on. They're trying to mix in. This devil is bullying and pushing. This is what this entity does. It says reaching detailed agreements that guarantee commercial reasonableness is now the essential task. Yet it also remains the biggest obstacle. Lee said proposals during work level talks provide no assurance of commercial viability, making it hard to bridge the gap. He said, meaning no, there is no guaranteed paybacks. There's no kickbacks or kickouts. What's that word? What is that word? Incentive. Let's continue. This is but Lee policy advisor Kim Young Byung said in July that South Korea had added safety mechanisms to reduce financing risk, including supporting commercially feasible projects rather than providing unconditional financial support. And that's really what Babylon America is trying to force Korea to do, South Korea in particular. But the only reason Korea is divided is because of Ahdawam. Let's continue. This is Lee said South Korea and the United States do not disagree on increasing Seoul's contribution towards its own defense, bolstered by 28,500 U.S. troops on the Korean Peninsula, but that Washington wants to keep security trade talks separate. It says we should end this unstable situation as soon as possible, he said when asked whether talks could extend into the next year. So he's trying to be done with this. But this devil is this wicked, sinful kingdom, this destroying mountain, is keeping these things going, and it is causing a hindrance to these nations. It says Lee has sought to reduce tensions with nuclear-armed North Korea, Salakia. Pyongyang has rebuffed the South's overtures and Lee said he was not optimistic about the prospect of inter-Korean talks for the time being. Meaning, North Korea's like, nah, we ain't finna do that because we know who you with. We know who you allied with. We not finna do none of that. So this is what's going on. And it says Lee told Reuters, so like I didn't skip down. It says during their meeting, Lee encouraged Trump to try and meet again with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un during Trump's next trip next month for an Asia Pacific summit Lee will host in the South. Lee told Reuters his government does not have detailed information on the status of any talks between Washington and Pyongyang because there ain't nothing to talk about. That's why. It says it is our judgment that they are not engaging in any concrete conversations, he said, because this devil is showing his hand. So the leader of North Korea, they like, bro, I ain't trying to hear nothing what you talking about, dog. That's really what that is. Even though they trying to say peace, and trying to do all these, it's just not happening. It's not going to come together because there is no more mixing in for Ahdawam. Ain't no more interrelation talks. Ain't no more bilateral deals. Ain't no more of that. That's it. That's over. It's done. This devil has burned every bridge he possibly could. And now he's burning bridges that he don't even have. Let's continue. He said he shares his predecessor's Yoon's view that North Korea's military cooperation with Russia is a significant threat to the South, a significant threat to South Korea's security. How? South Korea has not been targeted and or attacked. But he said it is not enough to respond in a simplistic way to the issue, which must be addressed through dialogue and coordination. I'm kind of getting tired of reading on that now. Let's see. Okay, that was the end of it right there. So I'll finish it on that then. It says the North Korean leader And Russian President Vladimir Putin stood shoulder to shoulder this month in Beijing when Chinese President Xi Jinping hosted them at a massive military summit, because that's what's supposed to be going on, because it's part of BRICS. Of course, they're allies. Lee said there is an increasing confrontation between socialist camps of the countries and capitalist democratic camps that includes Seoul and South Korea's geography threatens to place it on the frontier of any conflict with the other camp. And I mean, it's bound to happen unless, the truth of the matter is, unless Korea, South Korea in particular, say, hey man, we done. We don't do what we not dealing with America no more. That'll stop all of that. Because that's if it stays this way, guess what? South Korea gonna get pulled right in too, and be fighting a war. But even though ultimately all these nations are going to be fighting each other, because it is the will of Yahweh Shem Yahushai. So let's continue. Hurry up and get some scriptures. I'm kind of tired of talking. He said there's an escalatory spiral of rivalry and tensions where South Korea, Japan, and the United States deepen coordination, and China and Russia and North Korea work more closely together. And that's how it's supposed to be. He said this is a very dangerous situation for Korea, and it is. And we must find an exit ramp out of the escalating military tensions, Lee said. We must find a way for peaceful coexistence. So this is his thing, but it ain't gonna go down that way. It's not. The Lord is gathering these nations. He's riling all these nations up, and he's gonna make them go to war. And it is what it is, though. You're trying to say, oh, we're trying to be peaceful. It ain't happening. But let's go ahead and get to it. This is Ezekiel, 2nd Esdras, Salakia, chapter 15, verse 12. It says, Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that Yahweh shall bring upon it. So this place is going to mourn. The Lord has smitten the foundation of this place. He has taken away the strength. He has caused the breaking up of this place. And he's used plague. He's going to use plague and punishment to do so. He's going to bring those things upon this place. It ain't going to just be an economic downturn, an economic failure. It's going to be a whole lot of other things. And this is the Lord breaking the strength of this place, taking this place down, because there is no more mixing in for Ahdawam. No more deals, no more bailouts, no more none of that. That's why these nations are now hesitant to deal. Even Babylon, America's allies, are hesitant to make certain moves with this place. Let's continue. Let's go to Ezekiel 14. Ezekiel chapter 14, I'm going to start at verse 12. Okay, yeah, this is just 14. It says, the word of the Lord Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, when the land sins against me by trespassing grievously, then will I stretch out mine hand upon it, and break the staff of the bread thereof, and will send famine upon it, and will cut off man and beast from it. Now, of course, this was according when Jake, our people, we was doing tomfoolery in our land. So the Lord was like, okay, I'm gonna stretch out my hand in anger. Well, that is applicable to this place, because what's going on here? There is trespassing of Yahweh Shem Yahushai grievously. There is idolatry. There is a lot of things that are immoral here. So the Lord he's going to stretch out his hand. He's going to break the staff of bread. I mean, he's going to cause amenities and things to fail. Things that people need to survive. The Lord is going to cause that to fail and to fall. And we see that. And it is coming through how? It is coming through trade talks, deals not being brokered correctly, nations pulling out of deals, cutting deals off, breaking them, turning their back on Babylon, America, and doing deals that exclude this place. So the Lord is breaking the staff and the bread of this place, and he's going to send famine upon this place. And we already know what famine is. Famine is a lack of food, lack of water, lack of amenities and things that people need to survive. And in that, guess what's going to happen? Man and beast is going to finish with all their living. So we're seeing the Lord break this place up. And the fact that Babylon America wants South Korea to make that move is making the president is like, nah, man, that's gonna mess us up. They didn't already face financial ruin in 1997. Let's continue. It says, though these three men, I'm gonna go on and read that point. It says, though these three men, Noah, Daniel, and Job, were in it, they should deliver but their own souls by their righteousness, saith the Lord Yahweh. So it's basically saying it wouldn't even matter if, let's say, Noah, Daniel, and Job were here, which of course they probably are here in the reincarnation. But guess what? That righteousness of those three men will only save their souls, only save them. It will not save the country that they're in. Just like you have a lot of righteous brothers here in Babylon, America. That don't mean Babylon, America is going to be saved. That don't mean Babylon, America is going to turn around. This place is not healed. Let's continue. Let's go to Daniel chapter 2. And of course, you know, that was when Nebuchadnezzar had that dream about the statue. I done passed it. No, not yet. Well, I ain't got to it. Talking about I done passed it. I ain't got to it. There we go. There we go. And right now, and where we're at, we're in the toes. Even though when you go into the prophecy and you break it down, the toes, it represents Rome. You know, partly strong and partly weak. But I'm gonna get it though. I'm gonna get it. But I'm gonna start straight at the point. I'm gonna just go right straight to the point. I'm gonna start at verse 40. I was gonna start at 40. I'm gonna start at verse 40. And it says, this is Daniel, Salakia, chapter 2, verse 40. It says, and the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things, and as iron that breaketh all these, it shall break in pieces and bruise. So, of course, you know, the Roman Empire, they stamped out all the residue. They was the strongest. The Roman Empire was the strongest empire at that time, back in the ancient days. And Babylon America is a 2.0 version. So just like iron breaks and can be broken, guess what? The same thing gonna happen to this place. Iron breaks and it can do things. The same exact thing is gonna happen to Babylon America. That's why I said in verse 40, and it says, and as iron breaketh all these, shall it break in pieces and bruise. So that means that's a downfall. Let's continue. Verse 41, and whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it the strength of iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. So that's what's going on right now. This place is partly strong and partly weak. And again, this place is divided. We see that. We can look at the politics side of it and see the division there. But we can also see the division in what? Spiritual beliefs, doctrines, and philosophies of man versus the truth. So this place is divided. And it says, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay. And it says, and the feet, it's like, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. So right now, Babylon is partly strong and partly broken. It's got strength in certain places, but in other places where strength may count, Babylon is weak. America is weak. It can't do the things that it used to do. Back in, we'll say 20, maybe 30 years ago, compared to today. And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Of course, you can't mix iron and clay together because they're two different substances. But this is talking about deals, financial deals, or just treaties, policies, and various sort things of the sort of that matter. So iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but shall not cleave, meaning they're trying to do deals. Ahdawam is trying to get in, and ain't nothing happening for them. They trying to strike deals here, do this and do this and do this. Ain't nothing going right. They trying to mix in with the seed of man, and it's not happening. These nations are starting to turn and look away from Babylon America. It is what it is. So again, their peace talks, their treaty talks, their covenants, whatever it is that they're doing, is not happening. That's why it says they're mixing in with the seed of men and they're not cleaving to one another, because iron is not mixed with clay. You can't mix iron and clay together. It does not work. Iron is of one substance, clay is of another substance. Iron can break clay. Clay can't break iron. Iron is harder than clay. But we're seeing a divide, and we're seeing this devil's house fall. That's why they're not mixing in. The title of the lesson, no more mixing in for Ahdawam on that point right there. Verse 43 of Daniel chapter 2. But let's continue. Let's go to Psalms 49. Verse 11. It says, their inward thoughts is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own name. So the inward thoughts of Ahdawam is that their houses shall continue forever. They think they're just going to forever be in power and just keep passing wealth down to family member, to generation to generation to generation to generation to generation, and it just never ends. That's not going to happen. And of course, you know, these devils, everywhere they go, they call a land after their name. Took over Asia, what they call it, Asiaticus, another Edomite. Africa, Scipio Africanus. America, Amerigo Vespucci. This is what this devil does. But there is no more mixing in for this devil. It does not happen anymore. Let's go to Psalms 10. Oh, I already read it already. I'll read it again, no matter. Psalms 10 verse 5. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. So there you go. This devil is always puffing at his enemies. And now we're in a time where he's puffing at his own allies, which is going to cause his allies to turn away from him. Let's go to Obadiah. Oh man, my Obadiah coming out. Oh well, I ain't putting my sword down. Anyway, Obadiah, verse 7. Chapter 1, verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. Have laid, Salakia, were at peace with thee, have deceived thee, Salakia, and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. So it's coming to a point where it ain't coming. It's then got there, and it's just gonna go further. Where all the men of the confederacy of this devil that were once allied with him have brought this devil into even into the border. Got this devil all outside of his own we'll say place of living. They're lying to this devil. They're saying, oh yeah, we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, and we're gonna make sure that you get out of this financial crisis, and these other nations are lying to this devil. When it come down to it, they're gonna help this devil fall when he start to fall. They're gonna push him. So it says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border, that the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. They lying to this devil. They lying to Babylon America. And have prevailed, meaning they're gonna prevail over this devil, over this destroying mountain. When this place begins to fall completely, they're gonna help make it fall. And it says, all they that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. there is none understanding in them. So every last one of these nations that were once allied with this destroying mountain, they're gonna lay a wound under this place, and there's gonna be no understanding in them. They ain't gonna care. They're gonna get their lick back. Or they're gonna get their lick in. However it's gonna go. But let's continue. Jeremiah 51, last point. Verse 9. It says, we would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go everyone into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. So if this place was supposed to be healed, it would have been healed already through all kind of different treaties and covenants and agreements that this devil has been trying to make. This place would have been healed and turned around, but this place is not healed. So guess what? These other nations are going to forsake Babylon, America. And any foreigners that's here in Babylon, America, they literally going to leave and go back to their own country, the ones that's smart. Because the judgment of this place has reached unto the heaven and is lifted up even to the skies. The sins of this place have reached up into Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, and he's remembered all of that. So now he's going to bring judgment. You can read verse 25 of Jeremiah 51. Behold, I am against thee, O destroying mountain, saith the Lord Yahweh. So ain't no more mixing in. So no matter what kind of deals they do, what kind of arrangements they try to get in motion, it ain't gonna happen. Because iron ain't mixed with clay. They trying to mix in, but it's not mixing no more. It's not happening no more. They're being thrust out. They're being looked at and shunned. The Lord is making this devil a gazing stock, revealing all the secrets of this devil. And with that, shalom.